Hi, welcome to Mental Health Monday Check-ins with Jamie Lynn. I am Jamie Lynn. So each week when I get ready to make these videos for y'all to check in, I have a little notebook where I have lists and I take notes and I prepare. And I was going over my notes last night for today's video, and I woke up today and I've decided to go in a completely different direction. I don't normally like to fly off the cuff because I'm not great at that. Public speaking is not something that comes naturally to me. So bear with me here. Today I want to talk to you about vicarious trauma or secondary trauma. And that is when a person experiences trauma through someone else. So for me, as a social worker working in child welfare, I would see some pretty egregious cases of child abuse. And that can cause vicarious trauma. When you see these awful, horrible things happen to other children, you can't help but be human and carry that inside of you. And it's very normal. And oftentimes soldiers will experience vicarious trauma when they see something that happened to them. And oftentimes it will lead to PTSD, but that's not what I'm talking about today. It's more vicarious trauma. It's when you see something happen to someone else or they tell you about it, and then it becomes part of you. You take some ownership of that because it's hard to hear bad things happen to other people. And so today I want to talk about how you can prevent that and how you can keep your mind from going to those deep, dark places. So I have a friend that was telling me about an experience recently. And one of our friends is going through something really hard. And so it's friend A, and friend B is really upset about it. And she couldn't help but think of her own children in that situation. And my recommendation here is don't do that. When you read an article or see a news story or a movie about something awful and tragic or traumatic that happens to a child, do not immediately put your child in those shoes. Do not allow your brain to put your own children or your family or your friends in that movie, because it will replay in your head and it will cause vicarious trauma, and it's really hard to overcome that. So when you hear about something bad, don't automatically think, oh my gosh, what if that happened to my kid? You got to stop it right then and there. And it's a conscious effort that you have to make. So same with as a military spouse. When I see things on the news about something bad happening to soldiers or service members, I do not automatically put my own service member in that situation and think about how I would feel or what that would look like, because that's traumatizing. That's what vicarious trauma does, and it eats away at you, and it's really hard, and it really has a bad effect on your mental health. So I want to challenge you this week to don't do that. Challenge you to don't do that. Does that make sense? Right? So when you see an article of a tragedy, when you hear of someone, so recently I had another friend who lost a family member to COVID-19. And what I did not do is think of my own family and losing them to COVID-19, because then that really eats away at you, and it's really hard to overcome that. It can take you down a deep, dark place. So do your best not to do that. When you see trauma, when you see something sad, tragic, morbid happening to someone else, somewhere else, whether it's real life, the news, the TV, like a TV show or a movie, do not put yourself, your friends, or your family in that situation and then think about how that would affect you, because you are traumatizing yourself. You truly are. I feel very passionate about this. That is how I have been able to work in the area of child welfare for as long as I have. I'm up to 14 years now, I want to say, and I've talked about this before. My niche is child sex assault, and I can handle those cases because I do not think about what if that was my child or my niece, or what would I do if I knew someone that did something like that. Because then I wouldn't be able to let it go and move on to my own family or move on to the next day to help the next family. And that's really what vicarious trauma is all about, is you've got to be able to separate yourself from that traumatic event so that it does not affect you, so that you can move on, so that you can be healthy and not have it impact you in a negative way. So have a great week. Do not put you, your family, or your friends in those imaginary traumatic places. I challenge you. I'd love to hear some thoughts. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Drop them in the comments or send me a message. Talk to you next week.